Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome all viewers. Yesterday I posted a clip entitled Unrealistic Expectations of Modern Men and Women. And basically I was just discussing how men have a natural reaction when they see a woman who is beautified, who is wearing revealing clothing. And I'm arguing that when you live in a society where this is the norm, women are just walking around beautified, and men are exposing themselves to this all the time, it's going to have a negative effect. I would argue that it probably negatively affects women more than it negatively affects men. But we can save that for another discussion. Bottom line is, I would argue that it negatively affects men and women and the society at large, the family, so on and so forth. So that video, it's opening a discussion about this topic. And we can discuss it. We can share our ideas. Is that valid? Is it true? Now, there were so many comments to this video that I wanted to react to them and to keep this conversation going. However, today there's just one individual on Facebook who made a series of posts and had several interactions with people. And today I just wanted to respond to his comments. And I'm going to try to leave my emotions out of it. I want us to approach this sincerely, calmly, with wisdom, to really think, because we should be searching for truth when it comes to these conversations. It's not a matter of being emotional and taking things personally. It's let's be sincere and open to the truth. If you have the truth, then may Allah guide me to accept it. If I have the truth, then may Allah guide you to accept it. May Allah guide all of us to the truth. So without further ado, let's look at some of these comments. So this is a non-Muslim man from England. The first comment we're going to take a look at is his response, where he said, "Then move to Saudi Arabia and stay out of Western countries. People who think like this belong in the Dark Ages." Remember, he's responding to me opening up the conversation regarding how women in a society dress and how men react to that, and the effects that that has on a society at large. His response is, "Then move to Saudi Arabia and stay out of Western countries," right? So here's a couple of things to think about. Number one, just keep in mind that he's not actually responding to any of the points I made. He's just saying we'll move to Saudi Arabia. But one thing I want everyone to think about is the delusion that certain individuals are under when they tell certain people to move out of a country, right? like who is this individual to tell anybody to stay out of Western countries because I'm having a discussion regarding what harms society? No. He has no authority over me whatsoever at all. If somebody is elected president, or like they have some sort of authority where they can actually get you removed from a country or something, then okay, if they kick you out, then they kick you out. But some random citizen, to try acting like they speak for the country. I mean, who died and made you king of Western countries? Nobody did. A very fundamental aspect of America, I'll speak on America, right? A fundamental aspect of it is having these discussions about improving society, right? There's freedom of speech, there's freedom of religion, there's let's discuss these things. You follow a certain religion, you believe certain things, let's discuss it. Let's have an intellectual conversation. And if we find that there are certain rules and regulations or laws that will improve society, then we should be open to adopting those laws. I mean, America has been constantly, since its inception, bringing forth new ways of viewing things and implementing new laws, right? So for me to open this discussion to talk about a new way of viewing things, saying, hey, maybe certain things that are happening in our society right now are actually harmful, and they're harming all of us. It's not just a Muslim, non-Muslim discussion. It's in general. This is harming women. This is harming men. This is harming the family. This is harming society. Let's have a discussion about it. So for somebody to come and say, move to Saudi Arabia, it's ridiculous. It's really absurd. But moving on. Then he says people who think like this belong in the Dark Ages, which is just funny because the Dark Ages refers to what region of the world? Pop quiz. When we talk about the Dark Ages, it's referring to what countries? It's referring to Europe, okay? These values that I'm talking about in the video, these Islamic values, they helped launch a golden age. So just a really, silly, absurd statement. But moving forward, there was also something that someone else posted on YouTube that I thought related to this conversation. They said, we've lasted through 1400 extremely turbulent years, and they have the audacity to give us advice while their free model has only been around for 60 years and is on the verge of imploding. Now, it's not funny that this free model appears to be on the verge of imploding, okay? And that's why I'm having this conversation. I don't want to see my country implode and a bunch of suffering come as a result. No, I want things to improve. And that's why I'm having these conversations. But it really is interesting just to think about that. For over 1,400 years, Islam has been established. It has thrived. It's thriving today. People are embracing Islam. Whereas this new model, this new progressive, liberal way of viewing things, way of living, how long has it been around? And what direction does it seem to be heading? These are important things to consider. Very, very valid point. But to go back to Facebook, someone else replied and said, we would have stayed in our countries, but you lot invaded it, remember? And this is interesting as well because somebody like me, to tell me to go back to your country, I was born and raised in America. I converted to Islam. So, what are you talking about? But he said, fair enough, he said, go to Saudi Arabia. But there are people who, their countries were invaded. And they became refugees and they suffered and their country was destroyed. And one that comes to mind immediately is Iraq. The war in Iraq, the invasion of Iraq. Where I live here in America, there are many people who are from Iraq and they moved here after their country was invaded and essentially destroyed, and just the amount of pain and suffering and agony that came as a result of that invasion, which I think by and large everyone admits now was a mistake. It was invaded based on a false premise. So for some people, that's a really important point to keep in mind. This idea, go back to your country. Well, in some cases, people like this individual specifically is responsible for them having to flee their country to begin with. So he replies, he says, all these countries are free and independent, so you are free to return, which is a nonsensical statement because if somebody invades and destroys your country and then you flee to theirs and then they see that some of your values conflict with their ideas, so they tell you to go back, you're free to return. It's just a really nonsensical, ridiculous statement. But the plot thickens because later on, this individual actually admits to his involvement in the invasion of Iraq. Somebody said, that was your best shot? So he replies, actually, my best shot at 1,350 meters in Iraq when I took out an Iraqi commander standing on his tank in 2003. Wink. So now this guy is boasting about killing an Iraqi commander, being part of the invasion of Iraq in 2003. So we're starting to get, I think, a better understanding about who this person is. They haven't said anything really responding with knowledge or any hint of sincerity regarding the topic at hand. It's just been, go back to your country, go to Saudi Arabia, I killed a commander, wink, haha. And all of this was supposed to be based on what premise? It was supposed to be based on the premise of, I guess, us Muslims were oppressive when it comes to women, because I was having the discussion about, hijab essentially. And this is how he responds. And it reminds me of the ayah where Allah tells us, and when it is said to them, make not mischief on the earth, they say, we are only peacemakers. Verily, they are the ones who make mischief, but they perceive not. So in one post, he is trying to portray himself as somebody who is like pro women's rights, and then in the next he's bragging about being a part of the unjust invasion of Iraq and killing people. And furthermore, when we're having this discussion, it's based on what? Like, where are we getting our values from? I'm speaking from the perception of a Muslim who believes in God, who believes that God gave us certain revelation regarding the proper way for men and women to interact, to live together, for a society to flourish, based on my belief in God. Why did this guy invade Iraq and kill somebody? For what? Because Americans told you to? Because George W. Bush told you to? You went to another country, invaded their country, killed people? When you're from England? I remember during that time in America, 9/11 had just happened. Emotions were running high. And now, in retrospect, many Americans and soldiers regret being a part of that. They feel real, some have been suicidal, some are alcoholics trying to deal with what happened. This guy's from England. So I don't know, maybe his hatred for Islam and Muslims helps him justify some of what he did. Maybe it helps him sleep at night. But again, Allah tells us, and when it is said to them, make not mischief on the earth, they say, we are only peacemakers. Verily, they are the ones who make mischief, but they perceive not. So moving on, there was a sister who tried to actually have an intellectual academic discussion. She said, is it because you want to take advantage of women? Do you know that every 25 seconds, one woman had been taken advantage of in America? And that needs to stop. And the only way to stop that is through Islam. Men, lower your gaze. Women, cover. So you can see she's trying to bring forth an actual conversation regarding the topic at hand. There's this problem with women being taken advantage of. What's a solution? She's saying Islam. Men should lower their gaze. Women should cover. This can help solve this problem. Now, I don't know how true that specific statistic is, but according to RAIN.org, it says sexual violence affects millions of Americans. Every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. On average, there are 463,634 victims aged 12 or older of rape and sexual assault each year in the United States. So, what does this individual say? Does he respond with some sort of beneficial discussion where we're discussing facts and trying to reach a conclusion? No, he says, no, it's because we give everyone the choice to do and wear what they want. We don't oppress women like Islam does. I mean, I have no clue how that makes any sense. I mean, isn't putting women in a situation where they're getting sexually assaulted, they're getting raped at such an overwhelming rate, isn't that oppression? And how much of a choice are women really even given when they are oppressed, when they want to wear hijab, when they are treated in this manner for wanting to cover, and they're told that no, they're actually they're being oppressed because they don't let someone like you look at them beautified? They're oppressed because they might dress in a manner that could potentially save them from this sexual violence that affects millions of Americans? But you know what? In closing, I mean, all we can do is convey the message. Some people are not going to be receptive. And this person, I mean, nothing they've said really seems to make any sense. I don't know, maybe they'll see this video and Allah will guide them. May Allah guide them. But at the end of the day, Allah will judge all of us accordingly. So I just want to close reading from the 88th chapter of the Quran. Allah tells us, has there reached you the report of the overwhelming event, the day of resurrection? Some faces that day will be humbled, working hard and exhausted. They will enter to burn in an intensely hot fire. They will be given drink from a boiling spring. For them there will be no food except from a poisonous thorny plant, which neither nourishes nor avails hunger. Other faces that day will show pleasure. With their effort they are satisfied in an elevated garden, wherein they will hear no unsuitable speech. Within it is a flowing spring. Within it are couches raised high, and cups put in place, and cushions lined up, and carpets spread around. Then did they not look at the camels, how they are created, and at the sky, how it is raised, and at the mountains, how they are erected, and at the earth, how it is spread out? So remind, O Muhammad, you are only a reminder. You are not over them a controller. However, he who turns away and disbelieves, then Allah will punish him with the greatest punishment. indeed to us is their return, then indeed upon us is their account. So Allah will surely hold all of us accountable in the hereafter. It is only upon us to convey the message, to remind each other, and everyone can make their own decisions, and Allah will reward all of us accordingly in the hereafter. Allah knows best. Thank you for watching. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.